This is a true life story. On September 10, 2025, a devastating tragedy unfolded at Utah Valley University, forever altering the lives of those involved. Charlie Kirk, the 31-year-old founder of Turning Point USA, was shot and killed while addressing students. The shot came from a rooftop roughly 200 yards away, a cold, calculated attack that stunned the campus and the nation. The authorities had no idea who was behind the attack until a key clue emerged: Tyler Robinson, a 22-year-old from St. George, Utah. Robinson, living with his transgender partner just 4 hours away from the university, became the prime suspect after FBI agents uncovered crucial evidence. Investigators accessed text messages and communications between Robinson and his partner, which directed them straight to him. It was through these messages that agents learned of Robinson's alleged plans. They soon seized evidence from his apartment and sent it to Quantico for further review. What followed was a tense 33-hour manhunt that ended in a shocking twist. Robinson's own father recognized him in surveillance footage and, concerned for his son's safety, turned him in. The FBI was now in possession of not just the evidence, but also a key piece of the puzzle: Robinson's motive. His actions were deeply personal, driven by his political beliefs, and, most chillingly, a plan to kill a man he saw as an enemy. The question on everyone's mind was, who would want to kill Charlie Kirk and why? In the days that followed, investigators worked tirelessly to uncover the person responsible for this cold-blooded act. The breakthrough came when the FBI learned of a young man named Tyler Robinson. Robinson, a 22-year-old from St. George, Utah, had been living with his transgender partner in an apartment just 4 hours away from the university. The couple appeared to have an ordinary life on the surface. But as investigators dug deeper, they found a much darker reality, one that would ultimately lead to Robinson being identified as the assassin. FBI sources revealed that agents had gained access to text messages and communications between Robinson and his partner. These messages, though seemingly innocent at first glance, hinted at Robinson's growing obsession with political ideologies and his plan to take action against those he saw as a threat. The FBI quickly moved to seize computers and other evidence from Robinson's apartment, sending the items to Quantico for further analysis. But the investigation wasn't limited to the messages found on Robinson's phone. One of the most chilling revelations came when Robinson's father recognized him in surveillance footage from the day of the assassination. The father, deeply concerned for his son's well-being, urged Robinson not to take his own life and ultimately contacted the FBI to provide information that would lead to his capture. The search for Robinson intensified after this tip-off. Authorities had already pieced together that Robinson had been the one who fired the fatal shot. But what had driven this young man, with no prior criminal record, to carry out such an extreme act of violence? As investigators continued to piece together the events of the day, they discovered that Robinson had arrived at UVU that morning in his gray Dodge Challenger. The surveillance footage captured Robinson arriving on campus at 8:29 a.m., wearing a maroon t-shirt, light-colored shorts, and a black hat. What was even more disturbing was the fact that Robinson had been preparing for the attack for days, if not longer. Investigators spoke with several members of Robinson's family, and the picture they painted was one of increasing radicalization. In recent months, Robinson had become more vocal about his political views. A family member recounted a dinner conversation prior to the shooting in which Robinson expressed his strong dislike for Charlie Kirk, calling him a hate-monger and accusing him of spreading dangerous ideologies. This conversation suggested that Robinson may have been targeting Kirk because of his outspoken views on issues like transgender rights, which Robinson himself felt strongly about. Robinson's growing anger was evident in his actions. Investigators soon uncovered a series of messages on a Discord chat between Robinson and his roommate. The messages detailed his plan to retrieve a rifle from a drop point and leave it hidden in a bush near UVU. One of the most unsettling aspects of these messages was the mention of the rifle's unique features. Robinson had reportedly engraved anti-fascist messages on the casings of the bullets he planned to use in the attack. One message described the rifle wrapped in a towel, hidden in a grassy area near the campus, waiting for the right moment. Another message from Robinson detailed his plan to change outfits to blend in more easily, suggesting he had premeditated the attack down to the smallest details. These messages painted a chilling picture of a young man who had carefully planned the assassination, driven by ideological motivations. On the day of the shooting, Charlie Kirk was giving a lecture to students when he was interrupted by a question about transgender Americans and mass shootings. Kirk, known for his outspoken views, responded passionately, defending his stance. Those would tragically become his final words. Just moments later, the shot rang out from the rooftop, and Charlie Kirk fell, fatally wounded. Law enforcement officials arrived at the scene within minutes. The first FBI agents on site were there in just 16 minutes, securing the campus and beginning their investigation. But the manhunt for the killer was just beginning. The FBI immediately launched fixed-wing assets, flying in specialized personnel and forensic teams from across the country. The priority was clear: find the person responsible for this senseless murder and do so quickly. As the investigation ramped up, new details about the rifle used in the attack emerged. Investigators found the Mauser 98 bolt-action rifle, wrapped in a dark-colored towel, hidden in the same area where Robinson had reportedly left it. The rifle had a scope mounted on top, and it was confirmed to be the weapon used to take Kirk's life. What made this even more disturbing were the engravings found on the casings of the bullets. One fired casing contained the words "Hey, fascist," in bold, angry letters. Another casing bore the inscription, "Oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao," a reference to the Italian anti-fascist song. The most chilling of all was the message, "If you read this, you are gay." These messages were a clear indication of Robinson's ideology, one rooted in anti-fascist beliefs and a hatred for those he saw as his ideological enemies. The investigation moved quickly. FBI agents worked around the clock, reviewing video footage, interviewing witnesses, and tracing Robinson's movements. The breakthrough came when a family member reached out to a friend, who then contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information about Robinson's potential involvement in the shooting. This tip-off was passed along to the Utah County Sheriff's Office, and soon after, the FBI was alerted. As the investigation continued, it became clear that Robinson had planned the attack in meticulous detail. He had taken every step necessary to ensure the success of his mission. His choice of weapon, the placement of the rifle, and his own actions in the lead-up to the shooting all pointed to one thing: this was not a random act of violence. This was a premeditated assassination carried out by a man who believed he was fighting a battle of ideologies. On September 12, FBI agents were able to locate Robinson in Washington County, where he was taken into custody. In less than 36 hours, the manhunt had come to an end. Robinson was arrested, and the investigation continued as authorities worked to piece together the full extent of his actions. Governor Spencer Cox held a press conference, commending the speed and effectiveness of the investigation. Thanks to the combined efforts of federal and state law enforcement agencies, Robinson had been apprehended in record time. But while the arrest marked the end of the manhunt, the grief of those left behind, especially Charlie Kirk's family, was far from over. Charlie Kirk was a husband, a father of two, and a beloved figure in conservative circles. His death was not just a tragic loss to his family, but to the broader community he served. His assassination was a grim reminder of the increasing polarization and violence that has gripped the nation, where individuals feel justified in taking extreme actions to silence those with opposing views. As the investigation continues, questions remain about how and why Robinson came to be so radicalized. How did a young man with no prior criminal history become so consumed by his beliefs that he felt justified in taking the life of another? These are questions that may never have clear answers. But what is certain is that Charlie Kirk's death has left an indelible mark on the country, and his loss will be felt for years to come. The investigation may be over, but the questions remain. If you want to know more about this case, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.